Hello everybody and welcome to the first Gaming Academy episode. In this video I will show you the biggest mistakes that League players make and the main reasons why they fail to reach a bigger division like the Diamond in the game. Don't miss this video, watch it until the end, and don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel if you liked it and want to see more. Let's begin. I want to start by telling you that I have researched a lot about the climbing in League of Legends that I am talking about, and I have seen dozens of videos and articles, so what I am going to tell you is a summary of all the research which I did and to save you from wasting unnecessary time. Believe me guys, there are no other methods to climb in League of Legends except for boosting, so pay attention to what I'm about to present to you and your gameplay will definitely improve drastically. I have classified these self-rules into a number of 10 to understand exactly the main things that League players do not do and the reason why they fail to reach a higher division like the Diamond division. And let's start with the first advice I give you, namely to become the OTP of a champion. So, let's explaining what the hell OTP means. OTP stands for One Trick Pony and is a popular acronym used by many League players. It represents a player that plays strictly one champion. One-tricking champions is common since people tend to find the champion that suits them best and keep to them. The wide variety in League's roster tends to narrow down options for people that are looking for one distinct playstyle. Let's say I'm a mid-lane player and I want to OTP Ahri because I really like the champion and it fits my playstyle. After I've done that, I also need one or two champions as a backup plan in case Ahri is banned, picked by the enemies, or even doesn't fit in the team combination at all, so we choose two more champions to play. Due to the way to enter ranked on League of Legends, the game forces us to select a secondary role. For the secondary role I will choose the ADC, and I will also buy 2 or 3 champions for this role, in case we have to play on bot lane. Now that we have chosen these champions, we are not yet ready to enter ranked mode, because there will be matches in which we will be forced to play autofill, which is why we need at least 2 champions for the other roles. After we have chosen the variety of champions with which we want to progress in the game, the first step is ready. Believe me, this is not done by more than half of the League players who are still in lower divisions and do not manage to climb to a division of at least Diamond. There are inherent benefits to playing as an OTP. You will thoroughly learn a champion and everything about them, giving you a huge edge over the opponent who might not be as skilled on their champion. This, in turn, will lead to your achieving dominance and likely winning the game. Now we move on to the second tip, namely the champion select phase. Many of you will tell me that it is very unimportant what happens here and that everything depends on what happens in the game, which is okay because I thought the same, but when you really want to progress, every small detail collected forms a whole, which will help us to get where we want more easily. The champion select phase extends over 3 smaller phases, namely the phase in which we show which champion we want to play, helping our team to see and choose champions that match ours, avoiding situations where we will have 5 AD in the team or just AP. The second phase consists in banning a champion of each player's choice. In this phase, I recommend from my personal experience that you ban the champion that will put you in the most trouble with the champion you have chosen as OTP, and then play it. Of course you can also ban what is in the meta, but this is a personal recommendation. However, the role of this phase is to ban a champion and not be AFK to miss the ban. Don't also ban the champions that your teammates chose to play. Another thing you can do here is to write on the chat another option that annoys you, and you have chances that the team will help. Now let's jump directly to the less boring issues, specifically the laning phase. The laning phase is one of the most important stages in League of Legends, as it can determine the way the rest of the game progresses. Generally speaking, this phase lasts between the 1 and 14-minute marks, which coincide with the spawn time of the minions and the fall of the turret plates. But don't think that I mistakenly said that it starts from minute 1, but because until then it's the invade and counter-invade phase, for which you must always be there with or for your team. As you can see, this clip is from a ranked match with Xerath that I played a few days ago, and you notice that what I do in the laning phase is to give as many last hits as possible and to maintain the wave somewhere in the middle lane, to always be in a safe position in case of gank. In my case, Xerath has a very high wave clear due to the AoE damage he has on Blights, which is why I use skill shots only in cases where I can no longer kill the minions with his hit to poke Ahri and put it in greater difficulty. For most matches I recommend a passive play at least up to level 3 where you can really abuse certain champions, but we have to go with the idea that we can't always win this early phase, and that's why in my style of play, I always based more on mid-game or late game, and in early phase 1 farmed as many minions as possible. There are many techniques for the early phase depending on which champion you play or which lane, such as slow push, split push, aggressive play, but for this video I said that I will teach you the essentials to reach at least Diamond, and I consider passive play and farm in your matches, your win rate will definitely increase. Also in the laning phase you will have to follow the jungle on the river to make the crab, help if it is invaded in the jungle or even roam if necessary, but we will also talk about roaming in the next tip. And if we brought it up, let's talk about roaming. What does roaming mean? Roaming in its simplest form is where you rotate or move from one lane to another. Every champion and role can roam, but some will find more success than others. It is best to roam when you have lane priority over your opponent, as this makes it harder for them to follow your roam. This essentially means that you have a good amount of pressure on your opponent, either pushing them under their tower and/or being able to effectively duel your opponent. In my case in this match, because I put a lot of pressure and Ahri went to the base and the lane is pushed into the tower, I see it as a perfect moment for a successful roaming, which is why I roam on the bot lane until the lane from mid it returns to normal so I can continue the farm. In smaller divisions, the players don't always use the missing pings, and at the same time they don't pay attention to the mini-map, even if they have vision, something that also happens in this match, and even if they had a ping, they barely noticed the fact that I ended up with Xerath on bot lane. But my personal recommendation is to roam only in the situations we discussed, because just as it can bring you a win very easily, it can also take it away just as easily. Roaming done wrong makes you fall behind with the level, fall behind with the CS, and at the same time can leave you without towers in the lanes. This happens in cases where roaming is done incorrectly. After the early game phase has passed, we enter directly into the mid-game where the game becomes a little more aggressive. This is the phase in which the team gathers to take bigger objectives such as the Rift, one of the last dragons, turrets or even initiate team fights. At the same time, this is also the phase in which a large part of the lower level players lose sight of the essential things, such as the CS of the minions, or the fact that they must follow in critical situations and not be caught alone to die. In the mid-game phase you have to be a more active team player compared to the early game where you stayed more in the lane, and you have to do a lot of roaming as a mid laner, as a support, form groups of 4 people, and push the bot lane while the top lane pushes the top, take objectives, and try to hunt down enemies who make positioning mistakes or pass alone through areas where you have vision. My personal recommendation here is that if you followed the first 2 steps, play an OTP with good mechanics and follow what I told you in the early game about farming, you should have around 2 or 3 items completed and to be able to put a lot of pressure on the enemies. Many league games end in mid-game by surrender or by destroying the nexus, these things happening maybe even after a banal fight. So always be a team player, stay with your teammates and earn free LP until you reach at least diamond. And now that we are done with the mid-game, let's move on to the phase where I personally win most of the matches due to my playing style, specifically the late game. Guys, this is the part where almost everyone has the complete build, you have everything you need to finish the game, and your mechanics and team play make the difference. If in the early game and in the mid-game you allow yourself to die a few more times, believe me, this is the phase of the game in which you must pay maximum attention, and in no case do not die for no reason, because the respawn time is very big and automatically you can lose the game. Try as much as possible to win smartly in this phase of the game, place wards to have full control over the map, move together as a team and hunt down enemies. For example, I play Ahri, a very dangerous assassin in the league that I have noticed that many players avoid, and in the late game phase, I wait for the perfect opportunity to attack from fog, or even using a basic flash mechanic with charm, followed by full damage and return by ultimate. In many games when I'm with Scylla's, I try to steal an engage ultimate like a Mumu ultimate or Malphite ultimate, after which I single-handedly initiate the fight at the right moment, making a huge difference to the enemy mid lane. These are just 2 ideas that I use to win the late game in my matches, but depending on which champion you play and which role they are many. You can apply poke strategies, push strategies or even force fights if the team has an obvious advantage and you know you will win. As my personal recommendation, never play with your enemies, don't waste time and win the match at the first opportunity. We lost many games due to the fact that we took time and gave them opportunities to get back into the game. Always think that your concentration is not the same as that of those in the team, you don't know at what moment they can start not paying attention and not playing as well. I'm done with the phases of the game and what's about the match, and it's time to give you some essential recommendations to win most of your games. First of all, never play when you are tilted or you don't have the necessary condition for a ranked match, this can make you lose very easily. Secondly, you can watch your replays to learn from your mistakes, and if you come to me and tell me that this is stupid, I assure you that I notice a lot of my mistakes even in the replays that I see in time, that I create content for you. The last tip here, and which is also optional, is to play duo with someone. Being a mid player, I always prefer to be duo with a jungler player, but this is not necessarily necessary. I climb diamond both alone and as a duo. Having said that, this was my first tutorial and video for you posted on this channel. I know it's not the best, but I wanted it to be a detailed presentation of what you have to do. In the future I will post a lot of precise tutorials about certain champions, game strategies and montages. If you liked it and want to see more of my content, please subscribe to the channel, you are my motivation, and I would be very happy to see that there are people who share the same idea as me and want to form here one of the coolest gaming communities. Ask me anything, I answer everyone with maximum explanations, and I am active at any time for you. Have a nice evening and see you in the next video.